All right, John, the floor is yours. Talk to me about, what you were saying to me around this question.
All right. So first of all, a bit of housekeeping. These glasses look there but can't see you there.
Okay.
So I'm sort of 50-50 for those that are listening on at home. Watching. I do, but I sound a bit old when I buy those. Any case, being wealthy genetic. So how that came about, Glenn, is I was listening to a podcast that asked the same question, but it was about obesity.
Right.
So is being obese genetic? And it just made me think about our own backyard and what we yarn about on a weekly basis. Is wealth creation genetic? So I started researching a few different bits and pieces and sent a couple of articles your way, worthy or not worthy. And it made me think about my own journey as well. And I'm like, what is wealthy? Like, everyone's got a different definition for that. But I think there's financially wealthy that we're referring to today. And I didn't grow up in any sort of wealth whatsoever. And in fact, it was probably the other way. Hard workers, not a lot of money, no disposable, not much holidaying going on. It was just not fending for yourself, but I suppose not far from it. I think going forward, your mindset, and we're going to get deep into the mindset piece, is it does transform one way or the other to the point where you either accept where you've come from or change the path through running away from what you don't want. And I think that's, in speaking to a lot of Australians, that's generally what's happening, isn't it? We're either following the path that has already been made for us, or we're changing and creating our own path to search for better, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the health thing, sure, if you grow up and the family isn't very wealthy and they don't have a high IQ or a food IQ, there could be some adverse health effects, because just this is what we know. And that's pretty normal. When you look at, you go one step further, and there's been a generation of being on the government pension, and effectively that's what we do. So you grow up in that environment, so that's all you know.
Yeah.
The next step further, and this was for my family, no one in my family had a university degree. And when I didn't like school and all that stuff, so I'm like, I need to get out of there. But the only way that I could leave school was if I got an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So in my working class family, we saw the difference between those who have a trade, like a qualification in something, versus people who did not have a trade, my parents. So our kind of, shooting for the stars and my parents wanting their kids to be successful was, you just have to be at least more successful than us, which is a trade. University, I grew up thinking university's for smart people.
Yeah.
And I'm not smart enough to go to university. So I think there is this element of, you adopt your environment, nature versus nurture, all that stuff. I honestly, think, and we'll read this this thing that you found, I honestly think it is more nurture than nature.
Nurture,
give me a break. There's, I don't think there's a wealthy gene.
Yeah.
And we'll read the study, but then the next level could be you grow up in a family, university qualified. Yep, you're leaving school, you go to university. That's it.
Yeah.
Next level might be you're in a private school because we want you to be networking with the next leaders of Australia, and it's, this wealthy vortex of people and all that. So I just think when it comes to our money, and so many of us grew up without any financial habits taught to us. So many of us grew up not knowing how to manage money. So many of us grew up, investing was this foreign concept. And that's why it's so important when we are talking about this to the next generation and accessibility with stuff online, we can actually teach people who ordinarily wouldn't know about investing. They could grow up in a family that, investing in shares is gambling and it's risky. But with technology, we've got into their life and we can start to educate people.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to your situation, you're basically saying there's unskilled workers, then there's trades, and then there's university at the peak.
Yeah.
And for you, university...
Well, I think I was starting with, literally we don't get a job, we live off the government. Like
before unskilled, yeah.
Yeah. Then was like, we just got to get a job. Then the trade, then university.
Yeah.
Then aim for be prime minister or get into politics and all that stuff. That's kind of what I think.
And that still exists today. Nothing's changed, has it? But I think what may have changed, I feel in our circle of friends at least, is, hang on a minute, university's now not put up on a pedestal like it used to be when you and I were growing up.
Totally.
It's like, well, yeah, it's a great option to have this qualification under our belt and you can never take that qualification away from us, etc. But from a financial perspective, is it going to take us 15 years to catch up to the rest of society that have maybe started work early, no HECS debt, help debt, and bought their first house and that's gone up by 300,000 and this goes on?
I actually put in the Facebook group a couple of weeks ago, like, does anyone want to come on the podcast that they disagree with me about stuff? And I've got someone booked in who disagrees with a topic around being in a relationship with money.
Your phone would have been off the hook, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and then someone else was like, enough with the tradie bashing. And you've known me for a million years now. Do you think I've actually been tradie bashing that trading is bad? Because I want to know, is there a blind side to some of my comments?
As a tradie, like as in getting, like being
can't be wealthy, a tradie,
a plumber, electrician? Yeah. No, not at all. I think what may have come across is, in order to create real wealth, you maybe need to be a business owner.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between, well, I'm a plumber and I own my own business versus being I'm a plumber and I work for someone.
Or, no, there's actually three. There's I'm a tradie and I work for someone. Awesome. The second one is I'm a tradie, I'm a sole trader, and I'm effectively owning my job.
Yeah, so I got no employees.
No employees, I just own my job.
Yes.
Got the flexibility, the autonomy. The next one is I'm a plumber, I'm going to start a plumbing business. So to correct the record, if you think I was tradie bashing, like absolutely not. I grew up, I got a trade when I left school. I know so many people that are tradies that have made really good money and still do make money.
Yeah.
But we can't be under the illusion that you can make, I'm talking a serious living or serious wealth with the idea that if you're trading an hour of your time for an hour of money, that will cap out.
Yeah, we're
limited.
limited.
The next level, if I come to your house and install a new flick mixer tap or a toilet cistern, sure, I'll get maybe a 20, 30% spread on the equipment.
Appliance, yeah.
But that will also cap out. I'll finish that point. But I don't know where we'll go.
Yeah, we're digressing a little.
Yeah,
but
I just wanted to jump in and clarify that.
Yeah, so I think, again, where all this came from is looking at it and saying, if you're listening out there saying, I grew up in poverty or lower socio and I'm still in a position where I haven't got a lot to play with, we can change the narrative. That's the most important part of this, right? Conversely, the other end, and I think you touched on it, is, well, I've grown up in wealth. I went to private school and I got my first house given to me, my first car given to me, and I've buggered it all up. Like, there's no recipe there. It all comes back to your mindset and the way you apply yourself.
100%. So if we go back to this article that you sent me, I might just read a bit of a summary. Sorry that the screens are a bit weird on YouTube. I'm still trying to set up this new screen. So this was from the World Economic Forum website. It was from the 5th of April 2018. Genetics, wealth, and their influence on children's cognitive ability. The TLDR, we analysed birth and school records of 24,000 twins and nearly 275,000 siblings born in Florida between 1994 and 2002. as did previous researchers. We examined genetic and environmental influence of cognitive development. We focused on a very large set of twins and siblings. Twins and siblings close in age allowed us to disentangle the role of genes and environment in development of cognitive ability. We found no evidence that social class played more of a role in educational performance for poor kids than for rich ones. While students in the higher income groups performed better than students in the lower income groups, the relative influence of genetic and environmental differences were the same across groups.
So have you seen the movie The Parent Trap?
Maybe a million years ago.
Yeah, so a set of twin girls, one went with their mum, one went with their dad when they separated.
Right.
And they went for a holiday one year and they swapped over, but the parents didn't know they'd swapped.
Right.
So it sort of reminds me of this. Is like, well, okay, we're living in certain conditions, right? One might be wealthy parent, the other might not. And the next 5 to 10 years form our life, who we're surrounded by, even our mindset as to our influences, to then take us on a journey that gives us the best chance to be able to produce the best outcome.
Yeah. The key findings of that report, the study found that both genetic and environmental factors contribute equally, as I said before, regardless of the family's SES. This challenges the scarce-row hypothesis, which positioned that genetics play a more significant role in affluent families, while environmental factors are more influential in lower income families. So what are they saying, John?
Well, they're saying generally that what you're surrounded by doesn't necessarily mean instant success, but it does give you a leg up. And the example, always bring it back to sport, of course, Glenn, tennis and golf these days, right? The best tennis players and golfers around the world have come from some sort of wealth because they've been able to pay for one-on-one sessions constantly from age 4. Right?
Yeah, but that's the same in the media industry, right? To get a job in radio or TV, you effectively have to go on work experience and then an unpaid placement.
Unpaid, and the lower socio can't afford that.
No, that's right. But if you're in a family and you live in the city and there's a bit of money, yeah, sure, go and work at bloody Nova or Today FM or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's just, and this stuff compounds.
Yeah,
and so like we all know that, but there's always outliers of people that have come from wealth and are useless with money and can't keep money. There's people that have come from nothing and, done quite well.
And I think more outliers from those that are wealthy that have buggered it up than the other way around. Like you see many success stories from the other way, going lower socio, didn't have nothing, but I worked hard because I wanted to change the narrative. Yeah. And that was the main reason for me wanting to bring this up and talk about it today was, well, we're here for those people because we want to change the narrative. We want to it may require a shift in mindset or we may already have that great mindset, but when we have a setback, what do we fall back to? We fall back to the negative, I came from nothing, so maybe that's all I deserve sort of thing. No, bugger that. We're changing the narrative and the mindset forever, regardless of the setbacks, to be able to create an outcome that you want and deserve.
Yeah, and I want to talk to in a little bit, the growth versus fixed mindset. But I actually did some looking online around actual stats in Australia. Wealth distribution in Australia, there is clear disparities. And I'm telling people that we all know this across various socio-economic groups and, key factors such as income, age, education and gender. But check these stats. This was from the ABS website. In the 2019-20 financial year, the distribution of household wealth was very uneven. The highest quintile held 63% of household wealth. The lowest quintile possessed less than 1% of household wealth. So there's an actual concentration of wealth among the top 20% of households. So it kind of, particularly in Australia, throw genetics out the window
Yeah.
for a hot minute. If you were born into you're just going to, I don't even know why we're doing this. Like, it's just
You got a head start.
Yeah. Older households experienced gains in net wealth between 2004 and 2015-16, and this is from the RBA. Households aged 55 and above increasing by $630,000 between 2004 and 15-16.
11 years.
Yeah. Younger households in the same period, that's 15 to 34, saw a $90,000 wealth increase. So,
and that's just
and
the
that's,
leveraging, isn't it?
Well, it's property prices and super. I mean, there's nothing here that's outrageous. This is interesting. Education, it does, and this is from education.gov.au. Education, there is a huge correlation between education and wealth. Individuals aged 30 to 64 with a postgraduate degree had a median asset wealth 3 times greater than those whose highest education attainment was year 11 or below in 15 or 16. I actually got a message from a young person that I know in Newcastle. She said, "Oh, Glenn, I'm so excited. I just wanted to share this with somebody. I've just got a pay rise and a promotion, 6 figures, so 100 grand or more." And she's like mid to late, like mid-20s. I'd say 25 or 26.
Yeah.
Now, there are people that are listening to this who are struggling to get 70 grand, struggling to get 80 grand, and they don't have a degree. And this is why, you know, she's a degree qualified in her field, but this is why it's so important, that education piece. But there's a lot of tradies out there who are earning 100 grand.
Yeah, well, I was talking to a guy at the local footy club last night. He's a train driver. No qualifications. I don't know if you even need to finish year 11 or 12. I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
And their salary average is around 90 to 110. And then overtime and everything else on top of that.
Yeah.
Right? So
there's outliers in everything.
There is. But I suppose, and there's a whole conversation around what you enjoy and what you're passionate about. But I'm a big one for, don't go and spend 4 years or 5 years at uni if you don't need to or want to. Like there are options out there that don't need formal qualifications like that. The gender pay gap is not surprising.
Yeah. As of November 2024, Australia's gender pay gap stood at 21.8%, with women earning on average 28K less than men. But this is the factors influenced by career interruptions and occupational segregation. So, look, I don't know. I categorically will move on, but I don't think you can actually have the genetics of I'll be wealthy.
Maybe not the genetics, but you can, the surroundings, who you're surrounded by is super important.
But we're all products of our upbringing. We're all products of our past. And I think there is this, when it comes to money and wealth, there has to be some self-awareness and a lack of a victim mentality, because life is truly harsh and it truly sucks for a lot of people a lot of the time. But I need to know that even if it takes me a lot longer, because there are so many listeners who listen to this podcast and they're like, yeah, I grew up with nothing. I worked hard. I got engaged.
Yes.
And there's...
But is there a gene for work ethic and good attitude?
No, I reckon that's more of a... Well, I don't know. We need to ask a psychologist, because you can be brought up in the most privileged household and you end up being a lazy piece of crap.
Correct. And that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
It's like,
maybe it all just comes down to parenting.
Yeah, but there's influences outside of that as well.
Okay.
There's so many different angles that you can come with.
Here's a question. You've got 3 kids.
Yes.
You're in a well-off household.
Yes.
Do you think...
By standards.
By standards. Do you think one of your kids, they've all had the same stuff fed to them, is one more lazier than the other? Is one more get up and go than the other? Because I don't know if it's quote unquote lazy. I think it's like a temperament thing. Like I'm a real creative, arty person. I live in my body. I just vibe it out.
Yeah.
Which has got a benefit in society because of the stuff they do. So I don't know if, what do you think with your kids?
So there's a few different parts to that. And we've just come back from a privileged 5-week holiday in the UK. And we were standing at Westfield Shepherd Bush in London. Hello to all the Londoners over there. We gave them all $100.
The kids?
The kids. I said, right, kids.
£100 in cash?
I think it was £100, yes, so $200.
Yep.
Go for your life, right? This is what you've got, right? Max, our eldest, still has that in his wallet. Hasn't touched it. Molly, gone within the first hour. Charlie talked about some things, nearly bought some things, sent it back, ended up spending it, right? Now, that could be just an age thing, 11, 13, 15. The eldest has kept it. He's a saver. He's been working, trading time for money, maybe appreciates it more where the other two haven't. So it's very hard to say, but same environment, same dynamics, but very, here's 100, do do with it what you want, different outcomes. So I think that's what makes me think there is something inside, whether it's a gene or a paired chromosome that says I'm naturally going to angle that way versus that way.